Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hera Byrne-Pollen. I'm with the Palomar College Military Readiness Education Program. We aim to destigmatize disability and rehabilitation services and topics in the military community. One of the ways we are doing so is by events like today discussing mental health and resiliency. We are very grateful for this partnership with CalVet and US Vets. I would like to also share the stage with my colleague Lenka, who's going to share a little bit about the Palomar College resources.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lenka. I'm the Health Services Specialist with Palomar College Health Services. And I'd like to share with you a little bit about our services. In behavioral health counseling services, we have a team of behavioral health counselors that is available to provide confidential counseling services to Palomar College students. We ask that students call ahead to speak with our administrative staff who can assist you with scheduling an appointment. And our sessions are free. They include confidential, culturally informed services, so short-term counseling. We also provide outreach and prevention in addition to consultation and referrals. Our goal is to help students benefit fully from the college experience by supporting your personal, social, and emotional well-being. Oftentimes, some of the issues that are commonly addressed in short-term counseling include personal issues such as stress, anxiety, depression, as well as relationship issues, including romantic relationship difficulties, family issues, and others, including adjustment to college, life transitions, performance anxiety, and effects of trauma, healthy lifestyle choices, and more. We hope that you reach out to us. I did put our contact information into the chat, and I'll be attaching our flyer as well. So please don't hesitate to check out our website or give our office a call if you are interested in learning more about our services. Thank you for attending today's webinar.
Great. And in addition, I will also be dropping the contact form for the military readiness program. One of the options on that form is to request more information about services like Lenka was talking about. So thank you again for being here. Back to you, Derek.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction. And I also just want to say hello and good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us today for today's presentation. We have a lot of information to cover in a relatively quick period of time, but we just also just want to thank you all for your partnership and having the CalTAP team to join for today's webinar. So let's go ahead and get started with the content for today and the presentation. So I just kind of wanted to go over some general housekeeping items for today's meeting. If you are not a panelist or a presenter at that time, we do ask to just keep your microphones muted and your cameras turned off. This just kind of helps eliminate some of the distractions and some of the bandwidth that is used for the presentation. As far as the agenda goes today, we will be going over the California Veterans Benefits Overview and some of the benefits and services offered by the California Transition Assistance Program. After that overview, we are going to go into the roles and responsibilities of our local interagency network coordinator, who's more of a regional representative to benefits and services in the San Diego area. You know, these individuals also work statewide with a collaboration of a network of service providers in each region in California. So we'll be going a little bit about the work that they do and how to connect with those individuals directly. And then we are going to go ahead and shift into the main content for today. And we're honored to have Dana Greffen with US Vets, who serves as the Director of Behavioral Health through US Vets at the Bob Hope Patriotic Hall. So like I said, we have a lot of information to cover. Excited for you all to join us today. And thank you all again. So let's go ahead and get started with the CalTAP overview. My name is Derek Rose, and I serve as a training coordinator for CalTAP. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I separated active duty in 2011, and I got out of the service and I went through the whole transition process using my benefits, going back to school, utilizing my GI Bill, ended up getting my degree, and now I'm employed with the state of California with CalTAP. So it's really just personally very cool to be able to come kind of back full circle and present this information to other veterans and student veterans as well, who may be going through the same process. So I'm honored to be here today and to be able to provide you this information. So exactly what is our program? What is CalTAP? Well, it's designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their federal and state benefits. And we do like to emphasize all eras because we know that not all veterans' needs are the same. Those needs may change based on an era of service or a period of service, or even regionally. The needs of veterans in Northern California may not be the needs of those in the San Diego region, for example, with so many maybe younger transitioning service members. Those needs may be different based on where you're at. So the way that we've compiled our program, or comprised our program, I should say, is through our pathway program. And you can see what each one of those pathways are. For example, we start with our core curriculum pathway, which is essentially Veterans Benefits 101, right? It's everything from how to file for your disability compensation through the VA, how to get enrolled into VA healthcare, exactly what your veterans benefits are. And we're going to be diving a little bit more into that here shortly. And then the remainder of our pathways, our education, employment, entrepreneurship, and veteran service providers pathway. So if your transition is going to be taking you to each one of those key areas, our pathway programs and our learning modules within those pathways are a great starting point for you. Kind of what we want to avoid is saying, oh, I didn't know where to go to find that information, or nobody told me this. So this is a great way of how our pathway can assist you if you're falling into one of those key areas. And we're going to show you kind of how to navigate those resources as well. I also wanted to give a plug to our California Veterans Resource Book. This is a great tool to keep handy if you don't already have a hard copy. This is just basically an A to Z listing of all your veterans benefits, whether it's federal, state, local, county, where your local offices are, and exactly all of the eligibility criteria and kind of fine print that we're going to be covering today. So if you don't have a hard copy, we can send a downloadable PDF link in the chat feature that my colleague is using. Also, just wanted to circle back real quick to some housekeeping items. We are going to be sending out some resources information in that chat feature to where you can get links, everything to download that we're going to be covering today. But if you have questions yourself, please use the Q&A portion. This will allow your question to be seen by all of the panelists today, and then they can either answer that question on the spot, or we can reserve that question for our actual question and answers portion that we've allotted towards the end of the presentation. So forgot to mention that. Use that Q&A feature if you do have questions. So in order to get started and find our program on our website, this is our main Calvet homepage, and you can see our CalTAP icon right down there on the right-hand side. So if you went ahead and clicked on CalTAP, that will bring you to all of the modules, or the pathways that I mentioned earlier, our main pathways. But I also wanted to highlight that icon down there at the bottom center. That is our whole series of archived webinars that we've been hosting since we've shifted into kind of an online format. So this is where we cover an array of topics, anything from housing specific housing services that are offered to veterans and their families, employment webinars, entrepreneurship programs, and mental health webinars as well. So this recording this webinar will be recorded and placed on our website shortly. And if you also have your own time, it's a good way to kind of go back and view our whole series of webinars that we've been conducting. So I just wanted to show you that as well. And how can you use the pathway program online? How can you use CalTAP online? So if you see our pathway page right here, let's go ahead and get started on that core curriculum that I mentioned earlier. So within core curriculum, you have all of the modules, everything from healthcare, disability claims and compensation, financial literacy modules. But we want to focus for today on that module 5, which are California specific benefits. So exactly what are they? What are my California benefits? Again, all of this information can be covered in our resource book for you to view at your own time. But let's go ahead and go over a high level of what each one is and what CalVet offers. So the main program, the most commonly utilized and very popular benefit, of course, is our college and tuition fee waiver program. This waives tuition and fees at any state-funded school for dependents of service-connected disabled veterans. So, yourself, maybe as a student veteran, are using your own VA education benefits such as post 9/11 or a program like VRNE, but this is for your dependent children. If you yourself have a minimum of a 0% service-connected disability rating, your child, as long as they're a California resident, is able to attend school tuition free here in the state of California. So great benefit, and as you can see, it saves California veterans several millions of dollars a year in tuition costs. So a great program. Encourage you to follow up on your own eligibility criteria for this benefit. DMV programs, we partner with DMV on a few different programs. The most popular one is that Veterans Driver License Designation. This just allows you to have the word veteran printed on your driver's license. It's just a nice way to show your veteran status, to get all of those local discounts and benefits at your local stores and things of that nature. There's the Honoring Veterans License Plate Program. This is just a nice way to show your veteran status. You can personalize your license plate through the DMV. It says the words honoring veterans on the license plate, and you can customize it with a logo or emblem from your period of service or a branch of service or something similar. And the vehicle registration fee waiver. This benefit is reserved just for those veterans with a total disability rating that also impairs their mobility. So again, if you do have this eligibility, please work with your county veteran service office so that they can give you the appropriate forms to sign off on before you go to the DMV. Please keep that in mind, to always go to your county veteran service office before making a trip to the DMV, just to save you some time. Outdoor activities. California is a great place for recreational activities. You can apply for a reduced fee on your hunting and fishing license. You would simply apply through the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and a no-cost use of state parks systems. It's called the Distinguished Veteran State Parks Pass, and that allows you free access to all of state parks here in California. Each one of these benefits also requires a disability rating from the VA of a 50%. So you also have to keep that in mind when applying for these benefits. Tax programs, there's the Disabled Veteran Property Tax Exemption. If you have a 100% total rating from the VA, you can apply for an exemption on your owned property to where you pay your property taxes through your county, and they will qualify you for a certain amount of a property tax exemption on your home. This amount fluctuates in different counties based on assessed property values, but if you have that eligibility of 100% rating, you can apply through your county. Business license, tax and fee exemption. If you want to sell goods or products or services and you need a business license to do so, you can apply through your local office to wherever it is you're applying for that license, and they can see if they can honor that exemption for you. And then the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Program, or the acronym DVBE, that is actually a certification that you can attach to your business to actually have a preference towards state contracting or doing business with the state of California. So that might fall more under the entrepreneurship pathway, but that is also available if we have any entrepreneurs out there who are interested. CalVet Home Loans. This is a great program. You may be familiar with the VA home loan. CalVet works similarly using your VA home loan eligibility, but they also, the main difference is that CalVet actually serves as the lender on your home. So instead of you paying your mortgage to a private lender through a VA home loan, the mortgage holder actually pays their mortgage directly to CalVet. What that means, it's more of a personalized process through the home loan origination process. CalVet works with those veterans directly. Everything's done manually. It's not done through an automated system. So it's a more direct process, and we just want to present this information to you if home ownership is an option for you here in California. As you can see, similar to a VA home loan, provides full financing with competitive interest rates, and just like a VA home loan, there's low or no down payment requirements as well. So just want to present this information to you. Calvet Women's Veterans Division provides information, advocacy, and outreach to California women's veterans here in the state. They work in direct partnership with the California Women's Veteran Leadership Council, and they manage the California Women's Veterans roster, which is a great way for women veterans to connect and network. And networking is such a key aspect of the transition process as well. So if you want to find their information, they are on our website. That is their email address, and a little bit more about the populations that they serve and some of the work that they do. The same thing with our minority veterans program. Advocacy, outreach, and support to California minority veterans. And they actually assist naturalized veterans with citizenship and naturalization services. As well, similarly, you can find them on our website. That's their email address, contact information, and some of the groups that they served and the underrepresented veterans here in the state of California that they work with directly. Calvet Homes for long-term care. Calvet operates 8 state veterans homes here in the state of California. These homes have a wide range of levels of care, from independent living through skilled nursing facilities. So you can see where each one of those 8 homes are located. So maybe that time of need is not on your radar right now, but if you are approaching that time of need or know someone who is, they have eligibility for residency in a Calvet veterans home. State cemeteries, you may be familiar with the National VA Cemetery Administration, but Calvet operates 3 state cemeteries at the state level, and you can see where those are located in Central Coast and Seaside, Northern California, and Redding, and also at our Yountville Veterans Home, which is located in Napa County. So some common veteran websites that you may be familiar with already or beginning to navigate yourself. VA.gov, of course, that is a good starting point for all of your healthcare needs. Getting started with your disability claims process for your records maintenance as well, and actually checking the status of your own benefits that you're eligible for, such as your post 9/11 benefits or your home loan certificate and things of that nature. E-benefits is where you can go to also file claims directly through e-benefits, but it's also a good way to track and manage the benefits that you're in receipt of. You can print out all of your VA award letters, a summary of what all your benefits are. And like I said, you can actually apply through benefits here as well. But we always recommend working with an accredited veteran service rep before you do apply for benefits, just to make sure that you're doing everything correctly and you have the proper representation on any claim that you're filing with the VA. My Health eVet, this is where you can go to manage all of your healthcare needs. You can go, this is where you can go to refill your prescriptions, schedule appointments with your primary care doctor, send messages back and forth to your healthcare team, as well as manage your own healthcare records through the VA if you choose to receive your healthcare through the VA as well. So some additional ways that you can connect with CalTAP, myself or our team with CalTAP, you can reach out to us directly. Send us an email to that email address at CalTAP at calvet.ca.gov. It works better if you provide your non-DoD email. That way we can connect with you a little bit more directly. We will be sending out a link. You may have already gotten this through your email through Eventbrite, but this is our post-event webinar survey. We do ask for your participation in this. This really helps us tailor our trainings and really making sure that we're presenting the most useful information to veterans going forward. You can register on My Calvet on our homepage. This allows you to create a profile on our website and actually get up-to-date information on specific needs to yourself. So you can kind of highlight key areas that you want to know more information about, and you can stay notified about any updates to those particular programs or benefits. You can always follow us along on our social media platforms. and attend our webinars and our series of upcoming webinars. So just encourage you to follow us and stay up to date on everything that we have coming up here in the next few months or so. So I know I covered a lot of information very quickly, but if you'd like to reach out to me directly, that is my name and contact information. Feel free to send me an email and I will go over anything that you'd like to talk about a little bit more in detail. So shifting gears a little bit, unfortunately, we had a last minute change to our link. Lance Yunker is the link for San Diego County, and that acronym stands for our local interagency network coordinator. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but their term is LINK for short. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill in on behalf of Lance, just kind of give a real quick overview of some of the roles and responsibilities of the LINK and how to connect with them directly. So as you can see right here, California is broken up into 8 LINK regions. These regions actually mirror the FEMA disaster relief zones. So you can see that what each region, each one of those links serves. So as you can see, they kind of vary in size. Pardon me. These link regions vary in size. As you can see, our Northern California region is not quite as big as our San Diego or Los Angeles region, but the veteran population is, pretty heavy in each one of those regions. So really what the link's roles and responsibilities are is to be, really create that network of service providers in that region and connect you to those resources. So we wanted to make this map available to you. So if you're joining us from a neighboring county or something along those lines, you can just take a quick screenshot of your link in your region with their contact information to reach out them directly if you have any needs in that area. A little bit more specifically about what they do. They provide outreach to veteran service members, their families in that area. And like I said, their main responsibility is to make referrals directly with those service providers in that region. And to really have an understanding of the veterans' needs in that region. Like I said in the intro, some veterans' needs may not be the same per county or per region. So it's their job to kind of link service providers and veterans with those networks. Another key aspect is assisting with local emergencies. So for example, when it's fire season here in California, which is basically every summer now, we partner with other agencies at our local assistance centers, and we provide benefits and services to veterans who are in critical need, right? So if they've lost any of their documents in any type of wildfires or disasters, we can assist them getting the basic services that they need to get back on their feet. So, and then just leadership and advocacy to local communities. They can also connect you to all of your statewide benefits, especially through the Employment Development Department in America's Job Centers, and actually connecting you with all of the benefits that I mentioned just now in the overview. So all the California state benefits, getting you connected to your county veteran service office, as well as relationships with the local VA healthcare centers in that region. So they do a lot of work, and they wear a lot of different hats. But I would like to share your regional representative for San Diego County, Lance's contact information. So that's his name, that's his email address, and he's really great. So feel free to send him an email if you have any questions about connecting with your link. Okay, so now I would like to shift gears, and I would like to take this time to introduce Dana Griffin, who is the Director of Behavioral Services for U.S. Vets. So with that, Dana, if you are joining us today and you're able to step on, feel free to take it away. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, Derek. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and if you need me to navigate your slides, just say next slide and I'll take care of it on my end.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Derek, thanks for introducing me. Like he said, my name is Dana Grethen, and I work for US Vets at our Patriotic Hall location as the Director of Behavioral Health. First, I just want to show some quick gratitude to CalVet and CalTAP for inviting me to be here today on behalf of US Vets outside the Waiver program. Thanks to Palomar College for the opportunity to speak on a topic that is so valuable to our quality of life. And a big thanks to all of you who showed up today to this webinar and or are watching the recording. The goal here today is to expand knowledge about the ways to respond effectively to stress and grow our resiliency. I do hope that this information resonates with you today and that you can take some of it forward with you and put it into practice. Next slide, please. Today, our agenda includes speaking briefly regarding why we need to keep talking about stress and how to handle it effectively. I will share with you some of the red flags or warning signs to look for when we are faced with stress and difficult circumstances and the consequences of delaying management of our stress. We will also spend some time defining and better understanding what resiliency is and the factors and characteristics that contribute to growing our resiliency. Lastly, I will share with you some strategies for developing your tool belt. A key portion of this presentation is focused on identifying skills that, if developed, will readily support us through periods of stress and significant challenge. The suggestions I offer are certainly not a comprehensive list, and I encourage you to spend time Googling more about these skills, doing some reading on these skills, or perhaps finding a professional who could assist you with learning a little bit more about how to advance these skills. Next slide. Here are 3 quotes I identified that really connect with the topic of resiliency. The first quote is by Angela Duckworth. Angela is a professor of psychology. She's also the founder and CEO of an organization called Character Lab, and she has done a lot of research on what it takes to grow resiliency, specifically on the character of grit. Her quote, "As much as talent counts, effort counts twice," kind of speaks to how talent in and of itself isn't any good if we aren't putting in a lot of effort to utilize our talents and to persevere in our goals to apply those talents. The second quote is by Oprah. She stated, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." When it comes to having lived through significant and impacting life experiences, such as episodes of depression or trauma, unhealthy relationships, homelessness, identity issues, racism, bullying, just to name a few, these wounds eventually turn to scars and they stay with us. They are in the thread of our history and in the thread of our being. So when we are able to look back with awareness and gain insights regarding how these experiences affected us past and present, we can better control how we may want to make changes in our future. So no matter how difficult and painful those experiences were or still are, with deep reflection and consideration, they do provide us with the wisdom we need in order to positively change our thoughts and behavior patterns and how we show up in life for ourselves and in our relationships and our community. So lastly, we have a quote here from Viktor Frankl, who was a renowned psychiatrist and psychotherapist, best known for developing the theory that the primary motivation of human beings is to search for meaning in life, and that we are resilient by way of kind of continuing to seek our purpose. He stated, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This highlights one of the tools we will be talking about today, which is using our energy to focus on what we can control in order to more effectively move through our stress. Next slide, please. All right, so before we get into the slide, it is necessary to mention that we are all susceptible to stress. We all experience stress in its varying degrees. No one is exempt from terrible life circumstances. It is part of being human to have periods in our life where we are under duress, where we cannot imagine one more thing being put on our plate before it all goes tumbling. And we all at one point or another in our lives experience significant hardship. So when the going gets rough, when we are in the muck of a life stressor or multiple stressors, we are understandably vulnerable to handling those stressors in ways that may be maladaptive. So that means perhaps harmful or not the most healthy adaptation to the stressor. or we respond with a protective behavior to keep us safe in the moment, but later will require a different approach. So ignoring stress is simply not acknowledging that it exists because we are not particularly aware that it's happening or impacting us. Avoiding stress, rather, is knowing that it's there and actively choosing to not deal with it. Repressing is a safety feature of our brain to keep us from remembering a negative experience so that we are not continually harmed by that old wound. And then suppressing is when we are aware of a wound and we're just not having it. It comes to the surface, perhaps like a flashback or a memory, and we push it back down. So emotion overload is when we are faced with a difficult circumstance that causes a wave of emotion or multiple emotions to overtake us, rendering us unable to respond. This is also considered to be called flooding, and it's a common experience for us when the intensity of an emotion or emotions is too much for us to manage in that moment. Impulsivity is a red flag we might see when we are being reactionary to stress. So impulsivity is a sign of dysregulation when we are reacting without much or any consideration about the consequences, or when we act without thinking rather than taking a step back and considering more effective ways to respond. We might engage in some ways we later regret, perhaps by yelling back hurtful words during a fight, or road raging on the highway, engaging in risky behaviors like overusing substances, or participating in unsafe acts of sex. Other ways in which the going gets rough is when we have limited awareness of our past experiences. So our past is our story, and it explains in great detail who we are at present and why we do what we do. When we don't have a thoughtful understanding of our past, it is more difficult to create healthy resiliency practices currently and for our future. I've mentioned a couple times this tool belt. At home, I have a physical toolbox with a hammer. It's got pliers in it, nails, a measuring tape, a wrench, a drill. Perhaps some of you also have something like that at home. And depending on the problem, I pull out these tools I need to deal with it. So likewise, we can build a toolbox or a tool belt, however you want to envision it, full of skills to manage our stress, to build our resiliency, and foster our growth. So when that tool belt is limited, it can be hard to work on problem solving our stressors in the most effective way. And then lastly, I note here that multiple adverse experiences make it even harder for us to cope with and reduce our stress. We are human. There's only so much we can juggle at one time. And I'm saying this last bullet point here just to acknowledge and validate that multiple adversities can make navigating through the problem-solving phase more time-consuming and painful and intense for us. Next slide, please. Very quickly, I will highlight Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This theory was developed by Abraham Maslow, who identified that in order for us to grow to our full potential, that all of these other areas must be met first. So why this is noteworthy on the topic of managing stress is that if some of our basic needs are not met, or we continue to feel threatened by the potential of those unmet needs, it will be harder to work towards our full potential. We may find ourselves seeking aspects of these upper levels of the triangle, certainly, but we aren't always doing a good job maintaining the foundation. It will be harder to get to those upper levels. One of the needs we most commonly tend to neglect is our sleep. If anyone has ever experienced sleep deprivation, if in your military training you've been forced to stay awake for long periods of time, or if anyone has struggled with insomnia, lack of sleep is a #1 cause of emotion dysregulation. And when we are dysregulated, our ability to cope with stress kind of goes right down the tubes. So it is hard for our brain to manage our mood and respond on little sleep, especially if it is a need that is consistently unmet. So another need we might neglect more commonly is our diet. If we don't intake enough calories or eat often enough, we can get what is affectionately known as hangry, meaning angry because we are hungry, but also eating foods that don't fulfill or sustain us, like junk food or fast food without the proper nutrients, can really affect our ability to cope. So notably, for anyone who has experienced a trauma that has threatened their safety and security, they may also continue to experience a level of insecurity of lack of safety that can cause periodic or ongoing mood dysregulation and stress. Next slide. All right, so let's better understand what resiliency is. Sorry. Resiliency is defined as an ability to recover from or adapt easily to change or adversity, meaning it is to become strong, healthy, or successful again after a challenging experience has occurred. It's adapting, being as malleable as possible, and sort of bouncing back from life stressors despite any missteps or faltering, despite any letdowns or disappointments. And again, I will mention the missteps, the letdowns, those happen to everyone because we are humans. So the more developed our resiliency, the easier it is to view a difficulty as a challenge and not as a paralyzing event. Looking to previous setbacks not as a negative reflection on our abilities or self-worth, but rather opportunities for growth and lessons that teach us how we might do it differently in the future. Folks with high resiliency are committed to their lives and their goals. They have a compelling reason to get out of bed in the morning. There is this pursuing of goals regardless of potential or known barriers. Commitment isn't just restricted to work. Folks with high resiliency are committed to their relationships, their friendships, the causes that they care about, their culture, and their religious or spiritual beliefs. Lastly, higher resiliency means spending time and energy focusing on situations and events where we have control and placing our energy in those spaces. So worrying about uncontrollable events can often cause us to feel lost and helpless and powerless to take any action. However, putting our efforts where they can have the most impact, which is where we have our control, we can feel more empowered and confident about our approach. Next slide, please. All right, the 7 C's of resilience was developed by Dr. Ginsberg, and he's a child pediatrician and human development expert. And he proposed that these 7 components are integral and interrelated to the makeup of resiliency. And so we'll run through these pretty quickly here, but you can find this online as well and do a little bit more reading on the topic. So the first of 7 is competence, and this is the ability to know how to handle situations effectively. To build competence, individuals develop a set of skills to help them trust their judgments and make responsible choices. The second is confidence, which is truly rooted in the competence. So individuals gain confidence by demonstrating competence in real life situations. The third C is connection. Having that support network of trusted family, friends, perhaps your chosen family or community often really provides a sense of security and belonging for us. The fourth is character. Developing a fundamental sense of right and wrong to make choices that we can stand behind and contribute to society and experience self-worth. The fifth is contribution, which is part of character. It's contributing to one's community, and that reinforces those reciprocal relationships that we have with others. The sixth is coping. So when people learn to cope with stress effectively, they are better prepared to handle adversity and setbacks. And then lastly, control. So just like we mentioned earlier, developing an understanding of internal control helps individuals act as problem solvers instead of feeling as if we are victims of circumstance. When individuals learn that they can control the outcomes of their decisions, they are more likely to view themselves as capable and confident. Next slide, please. So we will talk now about strategies for our tool belt. We will look at ways in which we can develop and advance these strategies in order to utilize them to effectively manage our stress and hopefully grow our resiliency. A strategy that is extremely common that many of us likely already participate in is simply called distraction. Because painful experiences sometimes last for a long while, sometimes stress kind of continues on for a long while, taking breaks to replenish by way of enjoyable activities is really important. Also, temporarily stepping away allows for us to truthfully get some reprieve from emotional pain. So some examples of distraction can include watching a feel-good movie, playing with a pet, riding a bicycle or getting outside for some exercise, calling a friend and enjoying some social dialogue, playing a board game. It could be reading, listening to music, engaging in art, maybe participating in a volunteer event, or tinkering around under the hood of your car, or cooking. And that's just a list of a few things. But if you search for distraction techniques online, there are many, many web pages with activities that list out a lot of different options, and you can gather some more ideas there. But the strategy is meant for temporary relief and not to really escape or avoid. Another strategy that can bring immediate relief is engaging in some self-soothing strategies to stay in the present moment by way of our senses. So using touch, we might take a warm bubble bath or get a massage, lay at the beach and feel the sand in our hands, or squeeze a stress ball. Using taste, we could drink a warm cup of herbal tea, chew some flavored gum, or suck on a piece of hard candy. Using smell, we might purchase some essential oils or light some candles. Using sight and sound, we might take a walk to the park and notice the people and noises around us, or turn on a sound machine, or use an app on our phone to listen to a guided meditation. A final distress tolerance activity that can reduce our emotional stress is called opposite to emotion action. And it is literally engaging in actions that are opposite to the way in which we are currently feeling. It's a way of sort of rebelling against emotions that are holding us down. So for example, one might feel very sad and wants nothing more than to stay in bed all day with the curtains drawn and the lights out. And instead, the challenge here would be to get up, which is the hardest part, make the bed, take a walk around the block. So perhaps someone who lives alone is feeling especially withdrawn and isolated. An opposite to emotion action here might be to call up a friend or meet someone at the coffee shop. And other helpful opposite to emotion actions include things like 15 to 30 minutes of exercise to lift spirits or reduce anxiety, taking a shower when it's been hard to practice self-care, completing at least one chore to reduce our overwhelm at home, or be kind or at least decent to anyone, in order to provoke opposite feelings of anger. And I might add, incorporating those deep breaths, counting to 100, punching a pillow or screaming into the pillow might be useful before trying opposite to emotions with anger. So opposite to emotion doesn't always feel exactly natural because we are going against the grain of the feeling that's really right there in the front and center, but it doesn't have to feel natural. We can still engage in opposite to emotion acts a little clumsily, and it can still have an effective result. Next, I can imagine there are people in the room today who have changed the way they engage in social media, TV, and news outlets. Consuming too much media can have a really negative impact on our mental health, and there's a lot of research that suggests social media in particular is really hard on our self-esteem and self-worth. So I encourage you to set boundaries around how much time each day or each week you want to spend on social media, asking yourself what you're hoping to gain from the media that you're consuming, and use that as a guide to help you determine which specific outlets will serve you. Could be really helpful. If you have a smartphone, some models keep track of screen time and which apps you're using. There are also apps you can download to keep you from using distracting media apps. So a couple of those include something called Off Time, something called Moment, and another one called Break Free, but there are a lot of different options. Setting boundaries is most certainly one of the most important ways that we manage our stress. Not only are boundaries extremely helpful for us when it comes to media, but also with ourselves and the people in our lives. So sometimes it's our relationships that might be triggering difficult experiences. Sometimes it is the sheer number of responsibilities on our plates that is causing us overwhelm. It is absolutely acceptable, and I might say necessary, to set limits with ourselves and with others regarding our commitments. So this might look like telling our loved ones that we need a little bit more time, or requesting space. It is absolutely okay to request space. Saying no when we might typically say yes, or choosing not to take on any additional obligations realizing that we might need some help, sharing the workload and reaching out to ask for assistance. These are all ways to appropriately act on setting boundaries. I will note that setting boundaries is very courageous. It can be uncomfortable and cause us to feel vulnerable by setting a limit with others or when we ask for help. But honestly, everyone at some point or another can benefit from setting boundaries and asking for assistance. And then lastly, we want to consider what drains our tank and what fills it up. There are going to be people in our lives that we love and that we enjoy spending time with, but being around them tends to be draining. And not because they are bad, but simply because that's our experience with them. So during times of stress, it is worthwhile to look closely at the relationships that fill us up. They bring us energy, they kind of revitalize us so that we can schedule more time with those folks and set some temporary limits with the other folks who might be a little bit more taxing for us. So additionally, the maladaptive behaviors I mentioned earlier, such as using substances or splurging on an expensive material item or engaging in risky behavior, might seem like a good idea in the moment because those things help to blow off steam, understandably. And those behaviors can also come with the consequence of depleting us in ways that we regret after the fact. So it's worthwhile to be thoughtful about the limits and boundaries in our lives when we are experiencing a lot of stress and looking to fill our time with people and activities that really do truly offer a sense of renewal to us. Next slide. All right, so continued strategies. Some of you may have heard of a technique called affirmations. Today, we will call it compassionate self-talk. Some of us may have had the experience in which we find ourselves being really kind and respectful and supportive to the people in our lives, but can't seem to muster up even one kind statement to ourselves. We really can be our own worst critic, and these criticisms sink in and do play negatively on our ability to cope and our resiliency. Compassionate self-talk is about speaking to ourselves with kindness and with respect, compassion, and also with truth. So we aren't trying to say things that we don't mean. We're not trying to lie to ourselves about the magnitude of a situation or how difficult a time we are having. These statements can help us to challenge and overcome self-doubt and other harmful thoughts that creep in. So when we repeat them often, we are more likely to believe them and engage in acts that actually lead us to start making positive change. It's important that we are able to be authentic with ourselves about how we really feel. And when the going gets rough, we are seeking small improvements, right? So baby steps towards reducing our stress and finding some relief. Compassionate self-talk sounds like the examples on this slide, and we can maintain honesty with ourselves and still have plenty of affirming things to say. Shifting to neutral means accepting how we are feeling and making a small but necessary step toward the goal that we hope to see. Next slide. Our next strategy for stress management and building resiliency is emotion regulation. Emotion regulation is the ability to exert influence and control over one's thoughts and behavior. Our emotion regulation abilities are a part of our executive functioning in our frontal lobe. This is one of the final areas of the brain to mature. And emotion regulation basically acts as a modifier. So it helps us filter the most important pieces of information and motivates us to attend to it in a way that we determine is most appropriate for the subjective experience we are having. So our response is to do one of three things. One, we can initiate a response and we can act. Two, we can inhibit a response or not act. Or three, we can modulate or temper a response, or in other words, modify our response. So where this becomes complicated is when we consider how we are expected to show up in the world as adults and how we are expected to control our behavior. Our brain is typically finished maturing around the age of 25. And as young adults, many of us may be able to attest to being less inhibited or experiencing more moments of impulsivity and experiencing a wider range of emotional intensity. But turning 18 and becoming an adult does not mean we are suddenly equipped with all the adulting skills. It doesn't mean that we automatically become really good at self-regulation. So there are also other factors to consider. One, what about how we were raised? Our cultural values and beliefs do have an impact on our emotion regulation. Our environment plays a huge role in our learning how to react and respond to our world. Our cultures and the communities in which we grew up, the communities in which we currently live, can strongly influence us. And for example, if we grew up in a household where sadness or fear were not acceptable feelings to show, and anger is the acceptable way to express oneself, we assume that, and it can become a learned response. So we might learn to suppress our feelings that are or were deemed weak or bad by our family or our culture, and only share feelings that are safe or considered strong or right. Secondly, if our frontal lobe experiences any damage, such as a concussion or head injury, or if one overuses substances such as drugs or alcohol, those circumstances can have an impact on our executive functions, such as our ability to regulate our emotions. So that's just some background on emotion regulation, but there are a lot of different ways, and you can, again, look online to see how you can manage and regulate your emotions. Another strategy in our tool belts could be weighing the pros and cons for how we want to respond to an adversity we face. And that's a more practical, objective approach to problem solving. It also requires that we take some time to step away from the problem, if possible, to decompress and consider how we want to act. I encourage you to Google a pros and cons matrix and to find examples of how to develop that list. While the pros and cons matrices will not always provide us a very definitive and obvious answer, it does usually help lead us in a certain direction. Let's also look at a few of the mindfulness exercises out there that you might contemplate beginning to practice even when you aren't experiencing a hard time. So mindfulness is something that it's useful to practice it during times when you don't need it, so that when you are feeling stressed, you can more readily access that skill. These exercises are meant to center our mind and our body and bring us to the present. So too much time mulling over the past or worrying in the future means that we're missing what is happening right in front of us. A practice that is widely used is deep breathing, and it's meant to bring us closer to a calm and relaxed state. So to practice deep breathing, you're going to sit or lie flat in a comfortable position with legs uncrossed. You're going to put one hand on your belly just below your ribs and the other hand on your chest. You're going to take a deep breath in through your nose and let your belly push your hand out. Your chest should not move. Breathe out through pursed lips as if you were whistling, and feel the hand on your belly go in and use it to push all the air out. So do this breathing 3 to 10 times, and you're going to take your time with each breath. This is kind of a slow exercise. And at the end of the exercise, you can do a body check to see how you're feeling. See if you experienced any calming effects. There's also a useful meditation called the body scan, and it is one of the most effective ways to begin a mindfulness meditation practice. The purpose is to tune into your body and to reconnect to your physical self and notice any sensations you're feeling without any judgment. So while many people find the body scan relaxing, relaxation is not the primary goal. It's actually, the goal is to train the mind to be more open and aware of sensory experiences and ultimately more accepting of our experiences. So research shows that the body scan meditation in particular has many mental and physical benefits, including reducing stress, increasing focus, and improving sleep. According to research that did not involve headspace practice body scan, meditation was associated with greater levels of mindfulness. For example, observing thoughts and feelings while not having a reaction, and increasing physiological well-being, including improved self-compassion. There are a few apps that offer deep breathing exercises, guided meditation, and body scan meditation. The United States Department of Veteran Affairs created an app called Mindfulness Coach, which is free to use and also has very high ratings by its users. Other popular meditation apps that include in-app purchases are Headspace, Calm, and Meditation Nest. More traditionally, Individual counseling is a tried and true method for working through adversities we have faced in the past and present. It is important that we find a counselor with whom we are able to develop a genuine rapport and we feel like we can be our true selves in that session. So now more than ever, there are options to connect to counselors via telehealth, which can make it easier to attend the appointment. There are specific therapeutic modalities that are useful for targeting certain challenges. So for example, there is a therapy called EMDR, or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, that is an evidence-based model developed for individuals who have experienced post-traumatic stress and trauma. Next slide, please. All right. Earlier, I mentioned Angela Duckworth and her work on helping humans develop grit. Grit is a root characteristic of resiliency, and it is considered the passion and perseverance we have for long-term goals. So one way to think about grit is to actually consider what it is not. Grit is not talent. It is not luck. It is not how intensely for the moment that we want something. So instead, grit is really about having what some researchers call a quote, ultimate concern, or a goal that you care about so much that it organizes and gives meaning to almost everything you do. And grit is holding steadfast to that goal. So even when we fall down, even when we might make a misstep, even when progress toward the goal is halting or slow, it is really about sticking with it and being persevering through that to the goal, to the goal. So talent and luck matter to success, but talent and luck are no guarantee of grit. So in the long run, I think grit may matter at least as much, if not more, than talent. So 4 characteristics of gritty people include: 1, having deep intrinsic interest in the goal and the outcome. 2, we are practicing these skills a lot. We are practicing staying focused. We are practicing on identifying why that goal is important to us. We are staying optimistic, and we are staying hopeful. And also to have conviction, a sense of true meaning that your interest really does matter. And we always want to have hope that we believe in the dream, that it's within reach. And if we continue to persevere, we will attain our goal. Next slide, please. All right, here's just some additional suggestions. Acknowledging a hardship or a stressor and accepting that it is happening or has happened are necessary steps in order to move forward. This does not mean we agree with what is happening or has happened. Those are different things, but rather we are accepting that it is what it is. Having a strong support network is scientifically proven to lengthen life, especially for folks who are later on in life. Having a really strong support network does add years to your life and really can help support you when you're needing more additional assistance. Gratitude practice has been widely researched for years, and there's a ton of research about it online, but the research shows that gratitude naturally enhances our positive emotions. It increases our self-esteem. It causes us to be more likable to others. It improves our romantic relationships, strengthens familial ties. It also improves our physical, psychological, and emotional health, increases our optimism, reduces the need for materialistic goods, reduces impatience, and also improves our decision-making. And there's like many, many other things that it does. But gratitude practice, you can use journals. There's online practices, there's also apps that you can download to engage in that practice. Next slide, please. So last but not least, with practice comes positive change. When we experience successful attempts to effectively manage our stress, we can naturally increase our overall health and well-being. We can reduce risk for emotional vulnerability and hopefully gain more control. We can reduce conflicts in our interactions and relationships. Practice and positive change allows us to be a role model to the people that we care about the most. And it also allows us to improve our self-respect and self-compassion and cultivate hope for ourselves. Responding effectively to any challenge leads to better feelings about ourselves and our abilities, and hopefully grows our confidence in our future. And most importantly, if we're doing all of that, we are definitely building our resiliency. And I think that my last slide here is just about asking questions or seeing if anyone had any comments.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Dana,
Yeah.
for your time and joining us today. Really just invaluable information. Really appreciate it so much. Glad you're able to participate and share with us. And really thank you for your partnership and collaboration on this. So thank you so much again. Really appreciate it. Yeah. So at this time, we will go ahead and open it up to any questions that came in through the Q&A portion. So my colleague Kirk Eller was monitoring the Q&A. So Kirk, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you briefly if you have any questions that you'd like to address.
It's all clear right now, Derek. Nothing's popped in. So if anything pops up, I'll go ahead and let you know.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is our contact information slide for all of our presenters today on the CalTAP team, as well as our San Diego link, Lance's contact information. And Dana, I went ahead and added your information there as well. We share your email address through US Vets. So if you'd like to all take a screenshot of this to reach out to anybody directly in the future, just take a moment real quick. And I would also like to highlight our upcoming webinars that we're going to be hosting through the rest of the month of November and into December. We're actually going to be joining again tomorrow for the same topic here with Palomar College. So feel free to join us or register for each one of our upcoming events. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and conclude for today. Just want to say thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service as well. We hope that you all stay healthy, stay happy, and we hope that you all join us again. So with that, we'll go ahead and conclude. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Thanks again.